and welcome to Scarlet Serpent readings. Thank you so much for joining me in today's timeless pick a card reading, where we will be discovering the type of warrior that you are. So what type of warrior are you? And I was going to say there's not that much of a format to this, so anyway, I have 3 piles for you to choose from. So we have pile 1 with this card. This is pile 1. We have pile 2 with this card. Let's see. It's a river. So there we go. Pile number 2. And then pile 3. Okay, so if you need some more time to select a pile, you can go ahead and pause the video now. The timestamps are going to be in the description box as usual. And yeah, look forward to seeing you at your reading. Hi, pile 1. If you chose this card, this is going to be your reading. What kind of warrior are you? Sorry about the camera. There we go. And this card is Flora and Fauna with the identification book. Underneath it says gathering resilient tools knowledge. And then we also have another oracle for you. If you could see the word there at the bottom, I'm not going to say it. But this figure has decapitated, or this form of Kali has cut herself off, but there's still blood flowing. So it's really self-liberation, maybe from the mind, maybe from overthinking, but it could also symbolize cutting other people off from influencing your thought processes. And then for your, I was going to say weakness or adversary, we have treachery, betrayal, mistrust, and deception. So this pile so far already seems very clear-cut, and I guess that's just how you are. You're very, you're like this clear quartz, very true, you know, and I think your path of truth and wielding truth as a weapon has been a difficult one, because you've probably been exposed to a lot of people who lie, hide things, use manipulation against you. Your weapon is knowledge, and anything that you could. I feel like some of you would be really good at debates, like using logic, like a logic-based debate, where like you can even point out rules that are fake, created by other people or systems, and you'll understand the rules so well that you could kind of find loopholes within other people's way of thinking. So it's kind of like you could break down maybe patterns or habits, loops and cycles that people find themselves in, and you could break them free of that too. So that's kind of your warrior energy. It's very intense. Your weapon would be absolutely a sword, and yeah, this is kind of like, this is the justice pile, but you like learning about a lot of different subjects, so just so they can come up in different conversations. Like you know how to defend yourself and when to call people out on their BS, because I could imagine kind of like in a casual setting, like an uncle who pretends to know it all, and they kind of condescend, and you can kind of see past it, not only in the fact that they don't actually know what they're talking about, they're just maybe using bigger words or something, or just kind of like the argument of research shows that this, and this, but no one ever kind of explains what studies were done, what the research is, who the authors and stuff like that. So, but also you could find the underpinnings of behavioral patterns of other people. So you have a very sharp understanding. Again, you could come across as serious, very sharp, intimidating. but also beautiful, and you work well with the color blue. Blue showed up a few times already, so that just kind of solidifies the throat chakra being used there. And we can even see the birds just clouding the throat chakra, and then we see that the severed head is kind of like at the throat, so it's also being discerning of what you say. I think your voice is a power too. That would be like, I was trying to think of an X-Men who has the Sonic, I don't know, but then wielding a sword too, so you have two weapons. It's like the voice creates the sword for you. But let's get some more information as to what kind of warrior you are. Okay, so we have the Page of Swords. The Moon. No, let me get these two cards. I knew it. There we go. So the last one is the Justice card. So I'm not surprised this is here. Oh, wait a second. This isn't the Justice card. Oh yeah, it is. It kind of reminds me of the Devil too, but obviously it's Justice. One of the figures are cutting themselves free with a sword. The other one is tied up in a noose. So if you look closely at the imagery, that's what it shows. So, I mean, that just really clarifies your role as a warrior is identifying ropes that bind people together, bind people to their thoughts, and to not just their thoughts, but using the mind to excuse behavior that isn't helping themselves or people around them. This could be very broad or general, depending, again, because it's a collective reading. But that was the last card. That was the Justice card, and it flipped up. So if you were to identify yourself within the tarot, you could see the Justice card as your warrior self. But we also have the Page of Swords. This card, which I actually don't know what it is, so it's interesting. I'll show you this other one, but it says, looks like purification. It's interesting unraveling this imagery, and I think this purification, we'll see if there's one figure almost vomiting into the mouth of another one who's tied up. And I think that goes to show almost your enemy of kind of like your adversary would be one that spreads nonsense, really, like dirt, like gunk, you know, like a murky substance in a lot of different dimensions, I guess. They pass that along and people blindly accept it as truth, and you could see that, but it's also difficult to unravel just the knots that people tie themselves in, and it could cause a lot of frustration when you see things so clearly and the world is trying to convince you that that's not true. I mean, this image in itself is confusing to the eye, but I just get that sense of witnessing the self-bondage. And first you had to see this with yourself. I think that's why this Page of Swords was here first. You've kind of started learning to use truth, and by that I mean like just an unbiased observation of the self and your mind, and you kind of step back and continue to step back. And I think once you've achieved some sort of, at least a little bit of self-mastery in terms of identifying your own truths and things and actions that really align with your higher self, it became, or is becoming, depends again, easier for you to identify that in other people. you have the moon. So this can be seen as mastery of kind of like a melding of subconscious and conscious thought, where you could see the underpinnings of behavior, and that's based on the moon. We also have the 10 of Cups and the Justice card. I just want to show these two. For some of you, what you're fighting for is this sort of peace, this 10 of Cups, where everyone has enough to enjoy emotionally. There's a clarity to everything, even though there's clouds in the background. You acknowledge the clouds that exist. There's no really hiding or lying about the darkness that sometimes comes over us. But you know what's there, but it doesn't. There's like an understanding of cycles that you have with the moon and the 10 of Cups being there. So you come across as very balanced. Third eye is wide open. Throat chakra is a very powerful tool to get people out of these murky waters that they really feel comfortable living in that illusion, not necessarily illusion, but sleepwalking. So it's kind of like you identify those chains, you identify those people who bind themselves again. And I think this initially, or at some point, might have been not stressful, kind of irritating, or not even irritating, exhausting, like draining. This could be very draining work for you. So part of, I guess, the maintenance of your weapon, if you were a warrior, would be cleaning and cleansing through, I think water would be very helpful. I also think you could cleanse your aura through just reading, like detaching from other influences. It's kind of like that's your meditation, is reading a book, I think. It's like, last thing, I promise. It's like you strive for this. You strive for family and love and union with other people and the world as a whole. But you're perfectly capable and willing to just find that union within yourself, to not need others, to not rely on others. Because if for whatever reason their behavior or their truth doesn't align with yours, you've, I think, gotten to a point where you're completely willing to let them go and step into your own power, your own sovereignty. So hopefully this reading was helpful. Please let me know in the comments, like, share, and yeah, I hope to see you in the next reading. Take care. Hi, Pile 2. If you chose the River card, this is going to be your reading on what type of warrior are you. So this first card says River, and it says following an authentic thought. And I think this pile is all about kind of earth warrior, shamanic. This is the shamanic power, shamanic warrior, very much connected to their wild side, to your wild side, to the divine feminine, with Kalika Tandrika. So very connected, I think, here to your subconscious self, and to very close to nature, I think, here. And then we have Raven and Wolf, symbiosis, combined effort, alliance, and then Sacred Mountain with ancestors, endurance, and resilience. And I think this pile works a lot with the spirit world with the spirit of different places. I mean, we have 2 different mountains here. So kind of reaching up and grounding this wisdom from your spirit team. And then we have, I think you would work with different either power animals or different spirits altogether. And you get a lot of different perspectives. And you fight for people's freedom to express themselves truly based on what's in their heart. And Kali's even stepping on this figure's heart at the bottom. I forgot. I know the story, but I forgot. And I don't want to embarrass myself with the names. But for me here, it feels like yielding to the heart. Letting those desires flow freely and guide you towards true happiness, which might not be understood from a mental standpoint. So it's like beyond the mind. And that's kind of where your power comes from, is you've either in this lifetime or past lives have gone through that journey, and you understand really the beauty of not knowing, with communicating with unseen forces that are part of you, but that also goes, it's kind of like you don't really know yourself fully, and you're willing to learn more about you and your true north, which may shift over time, over the years. It's not set in stone, and I think you're very open and receptive to guidance. I can see you as the wolf who can be independent but also works well with others. So yeah, let's see what kind of warrior you are. That was just the intro. with a few oracle cards, but let's see. So we have the world. Yeah, there's something about travel. I mean, the more of the world that you see, it's kind of it unlocks something for you. We have the Justice card showing up again. Then we have the Four of Swords, which has slightly different meaning here as opposed to rest. It's like this Four of Swords is forced rest, which might be very uncomfortable for you. And then we have the King of Wands. So you have a lot of that fire, you have a lot of that desire to move around freely. And it's like nature contrasts your internal energy. So the more calm it is out there, the more in tune you are with your wild side. I'll show you this world card. It's very colorful, vibrant. We have the serpent going around the world. We have another mountain in the background. And this balance of like this tamed intellectual side of you, and then a more wild, free-flowing side. And it's kind of, they come together when you're again traveling, experiencing new things. New experiences are very important for you. I'll show you the Justice card. And then the Four of Swords. I think here, if you found yourself in those situations, Four of Swords, which might feel like the Eight of Swords, where it has that level of intensity, but it's really expanding your mind so you know what you don't want, it's kind of identifying the bondage. So it's almost as if it's like prep work for before you get to the Eight of Swords card, so that you know how to get out already. in more serious situations, I guess. But you might feel stuck easily. You might feel, if you're not constantly, like, if you lived in one city for too long, it'd feel uncomfortable. Like, you'd feel claustrophobic almost. And you'll see that this figure with the Four of Swords, that they are in gray, lifeless, even though there's life all around them. And so, especially when you're in a position of being down, depressed, really gloomy, even though you feel this way, know that it's a passing feeling. And I think you've gone through this enough times, so you're probably an expert by now. But yes, there's this internal world that might be struggling, but on the outside, the day, the environment, the natural world is constantly beautiful. And you could look to not only the sun and the birds, but you could also call upon those spirits to kind of lend that energy to you. And I think that's part of your journey. That's part of your, I guess, your weaponry. Your weapon would be kind of like your team, the assistants and the allies that you've gained through your journey. And then, we have the King of Wands here. I think this figure is on top of the mountain now. Very wild, very free, wielding the staff with confidence. Because as you've seen and as you've learned to hone your skills with communication with spirits, and communication with the planet in itself, I think that's where you've gotten that confidence from your journey. So I think if you have a very strong desire to travel, like constantly, definitely follow through with that, because it shows you how strong you really are. It shows you your strength and your ability to not just overcome situations, difficult situations, but it also reminds you of your place in the world. And not only that, but that the world is an extension of you. So there's this very ancient, wise understanding that you have, how you could change your mood, your vibration, just by looking at different things, just by going to different places. And I don't know, I'm getting that strongly with this world card. You breathe in the air, you breathe out the air that's within you. So it's kind of like this symbiotic relationship, and it's almost been a study in itself through observation. So it's kind of like the observing warrior as well, kind of like the Watcher from Marvel. So, but you're very powerful, and it's kind of interesting because this pile might feel, very much capable of communicating with spirit and comfortable with the presence of a lot of different, even unknown energies and entities in the spirit realm, but in the 3D world, I think sometimes you cut people off, or you're unwilling or afraid of letting people come too close to you, too close to who you are, and I guess the magic that as far as your connection to the earth. I don't think a lot of you feel very comfortable in sharing that experience that you have, and so you might keep that to yourself, or you might keep communication strictly between yourself and your ancestors and your spirit team, and you don't let a lot of other people in just because you might feel they won't understand, or they don't want to understand that level of wisdom that you possess. But yeah, I'm going to end the reading there. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Please let me know in the comments section. I always love reading the comments. Like, share, and I hope to see you in the next reading. Take care. Hi, Pile 3. If you chose this Scout card, this is going to be your reading on what kind of warrior are you. So we have this Scout card. It says challenging a fleeting youth. We also have this card. I'm just going to show it to you. She's wielding a very powerful weapon, balancing light and dark, and that's going to be a theme, I think, with this pile. This would be like the Alchemist pile, the Temperance card, maybe. But we have these two cards, the Witching Hour and Wolf Moon. And that might be a very powerful time for you. You might identify as a witch, wizard, that something along those lines, creating spells and working with the elements of the earth to really strengthen your intentions. But let me see what it says with the earth. Okay. Wolf Moon, we'll read that first. It says restoration, incubation, and growth. So retreating, more passive energy. And I think that's how you work as a warrior. You know when to be aggressive, assertive, and you know when to be more gentle and nourishing. And this isn't just, with dealing with situations and people. This also has to do with understanding your body and your communication that you have with self. And you recognize your own patterns, your own cycles, and work with them. And you've learned not to go against, like if you're feeling sick, for example, and you try to work, kind of fighting against the body. You've learned to not do that, at least not as much. But you're also not afraid of being more assertive, more aggressive, more deliberate with your intentions. And I think this pile has a strong connection with their inner child. So this is kind of like the inner child group. In the same way, we also have, I'm noticing the horns. There's two horned figures here. So like the horned goddess, maybe Capricorn or Aries, and those remind me of strong leadership, very alpha, not exclusively male, but alpha female, I guess you could say, like commanding. You have a very commanding presence, and it's rare because I think you could work well in shadow and light equally, like because I know a lot of people who would consider themselves to be witches or do that sort of crafting. They almost prefer seclusion and isolation. And while you definitely work very well under those circumstances, you could easily flip the switch and work right out in the open, purely by using your intentions. And I think that's part of the contrast too, right? Is at night you could be a little more deliberate, working physically with physical tools to do rituals and things like that. But at the same time, you don't ignore the strength that you have with your mind and your own inner power, specifically from your solar plexus and crown chakra and third eye and throat, I guess. But the power of deliberate intention, just day to day. You don't need to meditate. You don't need to use any tools, although you can on the fly. I think this group would be very good with like chaos magic. Like you just, through your intention, you could use any tool to do anything. And yeah, it's a lot of power through your intention. I think that's been your weapon that you've slowly uncovered, is your will, and how you could kind of bend the rules to your favor. And maybe initially you've been afraid of that power because it felt wrong. That's something that's often taught, as to be afraid of power, or that power is bad. But it's really your intention. We have the Tower, which is instead of lightning, we have a snake, a serpent that puts that into action. So that's interesting. Lots of red again. That's that passion, that intensity that you can bring. I might clarify that a little later, but let's continue. We have the Four of Pentacles. So there's that Capricorn again. And these are emerald. So there's a healing quality. We also see 4 skulls on this figure, on this image. So the number 4 could be significant, especially when it refers to your security and your security within yourself. And I also think, if you don't already, because I hinted at it a few times, is that you work well with physical items. Like physicality is very important to your craft. So I guess crystals, stones, things like that, but it doesn't necessarily have to be spiritual. I just think that you work very well with your hands. You like using your hands, and I think part of your power is creating something physically and gathering resources and being mindful of quality versus quantity. It's got a few more. This one wants to come out. The Two of Swords. And then the King of Cups. So interesting, we had the King of Wands in the last pile. These readings always kind of interconnect in some way. But what's interesting is this imagery with the witching hour and the Two of Swords. They're very similar in a way, and I think this figure is closing her eyes, so there's something about always checking in with yourself before making decisions. If you ever feel stuck, you can kind of unblock yourself through some sort of ritual, through kind of playing with options. Like, I don't know, you can be very creative in your decision-making process. And I don't know if everyone in this pile has played with that yet, but kind of like drawing circles in the sand, and whichever one gets wet first is the best option. I don't know, something like that, but being clever with nature in that way. We'll notice that usually the Two of Swords it is associated with the moon, which is here. So this pile in particular is very connected with lunar energy and cycles. There we go. But you'll notice that the water in the background isn't flat like it usually is. It's not very calm. And so you might find that you need to calm those before doing any sort of ritual practice, spirit work in that sense. But I think part of what makes you a very powerful warrior is your self-awareness. Your weapon would be your willpower. Your mind is very strong, and using thoughts in conjunction with physical things. So it's kind of like you insert power into objects. And then with the King of... I'm going to clarify this King of Cups. It's kind of standing out. I don't know what this card is. Kind of reminds me of Kali. I think this is the, I don't know. I'm getting Queen of Swords energy. Let's get one more card to clarify that. Because if that's the case, there's this bridge between your heart and mind, and connecting those two parts would be really where you can step into the next level of your power. I think this is the Hierophant. Yeah. In the shade. Because you've put the work in. Could even see the connection between this card and this card, right? Is this the same figure? Being impartial in the decision making, and how your actions affect others, and being a guiding light. I think your wisdom comes from a lot of trial and error. Yeah, you're not afraid of this tower. You're not afraid to allow things to fall to the ground completely, destroy your environment, destroy what you thought you needed. And I think that could have led you to being a little more, I was going to say appreciative of the things that you have, but also, again, valuing quality. It's kind of like this figure with the bow and arrow wouldn't want necessarily more bows as much as they would want more powerful bows. So it's kind of like an explosive arrow would be a lot more useful than just a regular arrow, but having 5 arrows as opposed to one explosive one. So it's like, and I think you could apply that to the willpower again. What kind of energy are you putting behind the thoughts? Like, what kind of, are you empowering? Again, there's something about like empowering, infusing thoughts and empowering these thoughts and shooting them out like as and it's this craft that I think you've gotten into, or you have the potential to anyway, shooting out these desires and going from being a victim of the world, to kind of taking ownership of it, to becoming a leader and really being an influence on the external environment. So you're not at the mercy of things that are happening around you. You see yourself as an active player in the unfolding of your experience and the experience of others, and you could teach that to other people too, is kind of the lessons that they can have to learn, and their own responsibility for at least part of the experience that they're having, is that there's always some control to be had. You could always control you and your reaction and your vibration in those experiences. And the more calm you are, the more clear the world becomes, and this water in the background gets flat, and navigating these seas becomes easier. And that's when you become the King of Cups. There's like this Avatar feeling. I keep saying the Alchemist, the Temperance card, of like having a full understanding of all of the elements, all of the fire, water, wind, all of that within you. Very alchemical. So I'd play around with maybe elemental energies and your thoughts, and empowering these energies to work for you, as if like an angel would. Like if you were to communicate with an angel or ask for a specific deity to be with you for a specific task. You could do the same thing with elementals. I think that would work very well for this pile. But yeah, I think I'm going to end the reading there. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Please like, share, subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next reading. Take care.